Will Andrew Pearson keep his reception target at 1,000% this weekend? That and many other burning questions as we prepare for the Lions and the Roughriders. Welcome you to First and Now, brought to you by World Vision Canada, national charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. Special announcement here, Bo Lacumbo again will donate $200 to World Vision Canada for every Lions sack for the rest of this year. The tally is currently $800. All more motivation to get after Trevor Harris this week. Nikki, what's happening?
Feeling good after that win, and like you said, the Bola combo, the last 3 sacks were actually by defensive backs. TJ Lee getting in there. Well, the defensive backs in quotations, I guess, because TJ's playing some Sam linebacker.
I know Gary Peters was lobbying me for one. I don't think I can help him there, but
on a kneel down in the first half, yeah,
not quite.
Interesting, hey, maybe by the word of the law, maybe. But how about Riley Pickett? You talk about Andrew Pearson. Is Riley Pickett he's going back home to Saskatchewan, and maybe something more is in store for the makeshift fullback.
And I saw Riley post that reception on his own Instagram. He claims it's his first touch ever.
That makes sense.
Like at any level of football. Remember, drafted as a D lineman and has done some long snapping, working with the fullbacks since camp this year. So versatility, that's what you love about this team. And yeah, I'm with you. Winning the next day just makes the next day all that more enjoyable after a win. And yeah, there's some things that they have to work on. But winning is good, and clinching a spot is good too. I know a few of us were kind of debating, do we want Saskatchewan to lose? Does that mean, because that means this week we could lock up a spot in the home game? I think getting in is the first step. That's what Coach Rick always says. That's the first goal, and you never know what happens. If Edmonton gets motivation, if they're still alive, and it puts more pressure on the Lions team to win. So 2 wins, and we will be in second place. We know for sure we're playing in the Western semifinal on Saturday, November the 2nd, but feels good to have the X next to the name, too.
Yeah, and obviously came because we made some big defensive plays on Friday, right? 2 touchdowns in a span of 5 minutes of real time.
Back-to-back series too. Yeah.
Just crazy, right? Mathieu Betts, admittedly not being in the right spot. Got to be good to be lucky to be good, all of that, but gets a pick 6, shows off those wheels, right? Picking off the screen there. And then the real heads up play for me is the TJ Lee one, right? Because TJ alluded to it in his post-game media that that Calgary was showing a tendency to throw bubbles or go to the strong side of the field when TJ was showing low. And on that play too, TJ shows blitz at the perfect time, right? If you're watching, you thinking TJ's gonna follow the 5 actually Stampeders that went to the strong side of the field, but he shows that blitz last second, obviously gets there with his speed just in time to bat down that Jake Mayer pass. It probably would have been forward, in my opinion, if it had got to the running back, but because TJ got to it so quickly, it was still behind. It's funny, I talked about this too on Tap. My first thought is when TJ's running that to the end zone, I'm thinking he threw the pass, that's incomplete. Like what are we doing here? The lateral factor didn't even register in my head until a minute later when they were reviewing it. But amazing play by TJ and Betts, and there you go.
Yeah, and Coach Rick, Nathan Rourke, I think Rick called it a meh performance offensively, and you like that. You like honesty. You don't like guys who always deal in cliches, and our guys aren't those guys. Rick's going to tell you how he sees it. He's going to be blunt, as some people have learned in the last couple of games, but that win, Nick told me that this Lions team, they could be built to win low-scoring games. I mean, you look at last year's Western Final in Winnipeg, 1 offensive touchdown for the Blue Bombers. That still irks me, the fact that defense played a solid game. It was the offense and Vernon running for his life all day that ultimately made a difference, as did a big play on special teams. Going to have to win these types of games. You're going to have to play the long game. Be more physical is always a thing we talk about, and I think the Lions were the more physical team as the night went on. That was evident to me. But defensive touchdowns good, considering Jake Mayer and company. You mentioned the bubble screens and trying to dink and dunk and all that. They were getting some yards. I mean, Calgary led the game 7-3 at one point. They chewed up a lot of clock and a lot of yards on that first touchdown drive they had. Was Hyman, their receiver. I'll keep wanting to call him Zach Hyman as we
He's got a cool name, though, Ishmael.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, very fitting for CFL. But Yeah, Mathieu Betts talking about how he missed the assignment but still made the interception, showing off his speed as well. It's a leaner, trimmer, faster Mathieu Betts. We noticed that right away when he showed up in Victoria after the signing. And Betts was also front and center. Post-game turkey, I love that. The Gravy Bowl, we're now 1-1 all time in the Gravy Bowl, and we got to see the turkey leg post-game with Chantel at TSN. Betts, Lee, Rourke, Peters crashed the interview as well.
Pearson.
Mathieu Betts talking about the jambalaya was missing. That's all that was missing. So
Yeah, we'll bring that up and go for it or punt. But
good times. And yeah, I love the Gravy Bowl tradition. We officially celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving this coming weekend. Thanksgiving weekend in the Canadian Football League, and it's a big one in Saskatchewan that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But anything else stand out for you against Calgary?
I think from the offensive perspective, you kind of wish Will Stanback got going a little more.
Yeah.
But I think there's a obvious, it's going to be an excuse, but this team's missing a lot of key blockers, right? You talk about Javon Cotoy, he's one of the best blocking receivers, or he's pretty much a tight end in the CFL, right? David Mackey's still out. Jarrell Broxton, their left tackle, still out too, right? So Will's 3.3 average, obviously not what the fans are expecting, but I think a lot of that was, sometimes there's one misassignment on a running play, and that's all it takes. It's a team sport, right? One 12th doesn't do their job, and it could lead to catastrophe. So the good news, though, the positive spin I'm going to put on this is that it looks like David Mackey, Jarrell Broxton, I know Javon Cotoy's not practicing yet, but Alex Hollins, the band's coming back. They're all getting together here.
If early in the week is any indication, we're just doing this before Wednesday's practice. We've had one full practice. I would expect Mackey, Hollins, Messam to be playing this week. They would be likely pulled early off the 6-game injured list. Probably another week for Javon Cotoy, as well as Jarrell Broxton. But who knows? Anything can change. We'll hear from Rick Campbell in a couple of minutes talking about some of these injury updates. And, this is maybe where this is maybe a scenario where maybe you wish there was an opportunity to wrap up second this week, because then maybe you give some of these guys an extra week before the bye, before the playoffs. There's a mouthful, tongue twister, but yeah, everyone's banged up this time of year, and Aaron Balson and the training staff, Anna, Ernie, all the folks downstairs, Ashley, not forgetting anyone, I don't think, but it's a credit to them. They're keeping these players healthy, enabling a lot of these 6-game injured guys to come back early in practice. Pete Robertson, that's another one who's coming back this week. Defensive line going to be huge this week. So, yeah, things are looking upward. And
even the replacements, too. Like a guy like Jonah Tavai, I saw had 4 pressures. He was all over the place. He's one guy that he's number 99, for those who don't know. He's a rotational defensive lineman. But watch 99 this week. He's small in stature, but man, is he strong. Because there were several plays in this Calgary game. I think we saw it actually in Jonah's first ever game, which was against Saskatchewan, where he's blowing up guys on kickoff. So he's a force out there. It speaks about the depth of this team. One final point about Calgary. Can Sean White just be the nominee for most outstanding special teams player already? 6 for 6. Perfect as always.
91.4% on the year, yeah.
It's never a doubt, right? And he's hitting 47-yarders. Obviously, there's the red zone falters where he's hitting these little 20-yarders. That's going to have to improve this week. But yeah, Sean White, he should be a lock in my opinion. I thought he deserved it last year. The irony is Janarian Grant is having a hell of a season again, or another Argos returner is having a hell of a season again. Obviously, Sean lost the award to Javon Leake last year in Toronto. But come on, give Sean the nomination, and he's deserved it. He's been consistent as always.
Mr. Automatic, Mr. Reliable. Back to Tavai for 1 second. Back in training camp, he was one of those guys watching.
You knew?
He was blowing O-linemen back 2-3 yards. You're like, if this guy sticks around and gets an opportunity, it's going to be fun to see. Baby Tavai, as Moj
the opening kickoff for the watermelon smash, though, one of the hits of the season in the CFL.
One of the Chris Walby Warrior hit of the game. They were still doing that. That would be Tavai from July 13th. All right, we've talked a bit about injured players returning. Let's get the head coach's thoughts as we spoke with Rick Campbell on Wednesday on First and Now. Well, Coach, you've said after here that you like the approach, you like how guys are handling things this week. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, the energy's good. This is the time of year to be excited. We have these credit to our guys. They made these last 2 games big games. Obviously, the first things first is in Regina. It's going to be a great atmosphere, great crowd. All the things you want a regular season game to be. So just getting excited and get ready to go.
Roughriders, a lot like us this year, started hot to hit a bit of a rough patch, but now they've got their groove again. What do you see differently about this Saskatchewan team compared to, say, middle of July when it was?
Yeah, I think it's about coming down to making plays and being opportunistic, forcing turnovers, things like that. So there's always going to be ebbs and flows to the season, but they're a good team. They're going to be excited to play at home, I'm excited that this game's exciting. If you follow my drift, that this is a big game, and I know our guys are going to be excited for it.
Likes of Mackey, Pete Robertson, Alex Hollins, Isaiah Messam been full go here. Extra good to be getting some possible reinforcements back. What's the status of all those guys?
Yeah, we have to make sure they get through a practice week and do what they do. So I'm not going to make any declarations till tomorrow, but we're definitely on a mode of gaining guys back as opposed to losing guys, and that's always a good thing this time of year. We have guys that work really hard in the training room trying to get themselves back and healthy, but the crew, that if they all end up coming back, they're definitely veteran guys that are big contributors for us, and that's what you need this time of year.
Coach, I want to ask you about the crowd noise here, because obviously a big game going into a loud environment in Saskatchewan, but this team, since Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams Jr. Started their tenures here, they're no strangers to these big games with the loud noise. Over the past 3 years, have you seen any improvement, or what kind of improvements have the quarterbacks in the offense made with dealing with the loud noises and heading into them?
Yeah, it's a different dynamic when you can't hear on offense, but we handled it well last time we played these guys. It was a high-scoring game in Regina last year. Is the last time that we'd been there, and it was no different. It was a loud environment, so that's just part of the deal of playing pro football. Is you got to be able to function when it's loud, and I'm glad that we should be happy for the CFL and happy to play in these type of games where it matters obviously matters to the teams, but also matters to the fans.
And then last one for me, no secret that Saskatchewan leads the league with 41 turnovers. They also have the fewest, 41 takeaways. They also have the fewest turnovers. What are some things that this team can focus on to make sure that they're winning this important turnover battle on Saturday?
I am aware of that, but just so you know, it's not everybody knows that fact like you do. So anyways, I'm giving you kudos for knowing the exact numbers, which is awesome. You got to take care of the ball. They're, like they said, they're an opportunistic team, and that's kind of when they get their wins, is they get those big plays going, which a big part of that is forcing turnovers, and they're very active on defense. That's why they get those. So you got to do a really good job at taking care of the ball on offense, and then we need to make some big plays on defense, just like you saw the game last week against Calgary. It's in the balance. You don't know how it's going to go in the second half, and then we create some big plays, and on this, on that day it was the defense, and so that's the name of the game when it comes down to big games. And as you head towards the playoffs, it's who makes the big plays, and that includes turnovers.
Yeah, shout out to Steve Daniel for those statistical nuggets. All right, Rick, thanks for this, and let's go get this W.
I'm down with that. Let's do it.
There you have it. Rick getting the guys ready for a big game. And a couple of notes, just starting to jot down some things for the game preview. As always, will be available bclions.com on the day before the game. That would be Friday. This will be the Lions' first time facing Trevor Harris as a Rider. In fact, Trevor Harris's last appearance against the Lions came with Montreal in 2022. Remember, it was right after the Vernon trade, and we went to Montreal right away, and Vernon backed up Antonio Pipkin.
Yes.
Trevor Harris was starting for Montreal. Harris has won his last 3 starts for the Lions last 2 starts. Last 3 starts he's won against the Lions with a couple of different teams. He beat the Lions as a member of the Edmonton Elks in 2021, week 3, with Edmonton in 2019 one time as well. The last time the Lions beat Trevor Harris, September 2018, when both himself and Rick Campbell were with the Ottawa Red Blacks.
Wow.
That's how long it's been since the Lions have defeated Trevor Harris.
Well, even faced him, like you said. I was thinking about that
barely
too.
faced him either, so...
But stakes are big, right? We talked about this off the top, but the winner of this game has a massive inside road to second place, and it's the stakes you love playing for, right? The environment you love to be in. The Riders actually can still get first place with 2 wins and 2 Winnipeg losses, so they have a lot to play for. BC here has a lot to play for. Winnipeg has a lot to play for. And there's a lot of good areas to watch in this game. You know, Trevor Harris is obviously a guy under center for them that likes to get rid of the ball quickly, but one thing I've really taken a note to this year is Saskatchewan's played 13 offensive linemen, and 12 of them have started for them this year. That's a ton, right? You remember we saw Jamarcus Hardrick go down in the watermelon smash.
Yep.
They've had a ton of injuries there, and I mean they've kind of kept afloat. Like they're still to have played 12 offensive linemen and still be in a position to get first in the Western Division is pretty insane to me. So that I think speaks to the depth they have, you know, the coaching they have. Trevor Harris, obviously, but it's a big area to watch for me because Saskatchewan, although they have all these offensive linemen and they've been keeping afloat, they are struggling against the rush, right? We talked about, the message this season was always from Rick Campbell that they wanted to beef up the interior of the defensive line and get bigger at linebacker to play for these games and be able to stop the run. Well, that's come to fruition. The BC is second in the league in run defense this year, and Saskatchewan's 9th actually in running the ball. So that's got to be shut down, right? Saskatchewan's going to want to pass the ball. They got to make them one-dimensional, shut down their run, make them pass the ball one-dimensional.
All valid. And remember, the last time they met there in July, Riders were 4-0, and the Lions were 4-1.
Yes.
So the Lions won that game to get to 5-1 before, unfortunately, the start of the 5-game losing streak the week after in Calgary. And remember, the fact that Saskatchewan was undefeated then, remember Winnipeg was struggling. I remember the mindset kind of being, okay, well, if the Lions want to stay in the race for first place, they got to win this game. And sure enough, they did. And the Riders went into a tailspin themselves. They've, of course, dealt with their injuries. They lose A.J. Ouellette, but they pick up Rock Armstead. And remember what Rock Armstead did his first game out, over 200 yards. Ironically, Armstead released right after touchdown Pacific, right? So we'll see what the Riders do in the backfield, but we've talked about Pete Robertson returning. We're going to hear from Mathieu Betts here in a minute or two. But neutralizing that run game and forcing Harris and company into second and long is going to be a big path to success.
100%. And then on the other side of the ball, that watermelon smash game, it was Justin McInnes going against his old team, and he definitely played with in some type of way there. 14 catches on 14 targets for 243 yards and a touchdown. And then the intriguing part to me is you got a guy like Roland Milligan, who I'm so happy is getting the national recognition right now for an MLP, because I'm like a little bit of a side tangent. The MLP is the most outstanding player, and I think if you watch the CFL season this year and you just said who's the best player in the CFL, you point at number 0 on Saskatchewan. That guy is incredible. But the question is, does he move over to face McInnes? Does he stay with Hatcher? Does he stay with Hollins if Hollins dresses? So I'm really looking to that aspect of the game. And then it's also Nathan Rourke's return to Saskatchewan. So, and Saskatchewan, he obviously injured his Liz Frank there in 2022, but those 3 starts he had against the Riders, actually, he reminded me of this yesterday because he played in the season opener.
That's right.
In 2021.
I remember.
But Nathan Rourke puts up some huge numbers at Mosaic. He hasn't been shy of the moment and the environment there. Obviously had Lucky Whitehead, Dominique Grimes, Brian Burnham doing all their things there, but Alex Hollins can be that guy. Justin McInnes can clearly be that guy.
Waiting for Hatcher to break out too, as we discussed on BC Lions on Tap, and it's funny. We had Gary Peters earlier this season in an episode of On Tap, and he talked about other DBs around the league. Who would you say is the best? And the first guy right away he mentioned was
he's incredible.
Milligan.
So last week,
you have to see him to really appreciate him. See him live, and it's gonna create a lot of matchup questions. Going to be a little bit of a chess game here. With Jordan Maximic and what the Riders do defensively. And it's worth repeating the stakes. Have to win to stay alive for second. The Lions do that. They would get second with a win or a tie against Montreal here on October the 19th. Or a Saskatchewan loss to Calgary in week 21 would do it too. The Riders go on their final bye week after this, as these two teams will kind of trade off bye weeks. A loss and locked into third. Can't move up or down. Would most likely be going back to Regina for November 2nd, the Western semifinal. As you mentioned, if Winnipeg drops 2 and Saskatchewan wins 2, well, look at that. The Riders would be in first place again, despite going at one point pretty much 2 months without winning a football game. There was a tie with the Ottawa Red Blacks. That darn tie they had with Ottawa screwed everything up.
That screws us.
If the Red Blacks just win that game, then the Lions would still clinch this week because they would have the tiebreaker as well. That head-to-head tiebreaker, not going to mean much unless the Lions tie their last game against Montreal. So, gotta love it. Mathieu Betts did not face Saskatchewan in the watermelon smash, although be good to have him smashing watermelons. He did so last year, I think. But Mathieu Betts, following practice, talking about the big test in Riderville. All right, Defensive Player of the Year 2023, Mathieu Betts. Been about a month and a half or so since you rejoined us. Feel normal again? What's it like for you day to day here?
Yeah, definitely feels normal. Feels like I've been here almost the whole year, so it's weird when we play teams like this week, like Sask, where I watch old film from this year and I wasn't part of that game at BC Place. But no, just at this point, really feels like I'm back in a groove and with the group. I mean, the playbook's hasn't been an issue for me from the start, but now I'm all back with it, comfortable with the guys and what we're running. So no, it's been good to be back, and it's crunch time now with the year, with the games that matter with the end of the year, so it's going to be fun for sure.
Yeah, crunch time, you said it. Basically, result this week depends on if we're going to be staying home, most likely. Does this feel like as big as it gets as far as October?
Yeah, well, it's always tricky when you talk about the result. I feel like when you play good football, that's when you'll have the result you want, and that's going to be like that towards the rest of the year. So I mean, it's not about going out there and just focus on winning. It's about winning your matchup, winning in the weight room, in the film room, just doing things right. And I mean, when do we do things right and we start fast and then just play 4 quarters, that's when good things will happen. So we really need to be process driven, not result driven, and I think that's where we'll have the outcome we want.
So, Matthew, if you're watching the film from the first Saskatchewan game, I imagine you've seen Jonah's blocks. You guys still talking about those? Or do you know what I'm talking about on kickoff?
I don't, actually, no. Sorry, Nick. You're going to have to clarify that for me. What did Jonah do?
Well, it's a big play on special teams to start the game, right, Nick?
A couple decleaters, yeah.
On kickoff return?
Yeah, return, yeah. Opening kickoff. You got to check it out then, because we've been still raving about it.
Yeah, my favorite... I always get up and watch the kickoff return, and I mean, nothing against Jonah, but my focus is usually on Night Train and the Belgium Express. My favorite one from this year was the opener in Hamilton. I was in Detroit when I was watching this one, but I was tuned in for the game, and no, those are always pretty fun. But I know what I'm doing when I'm getting back home. I'm watching that kickoff return with Jonah, but no, it's I ain't gonna lie, that's something I'm happy I'm not doing, playing kickoff against our team. I mean, they're doing as good of a job that they're playing violently. I mean, it's just not fun to... It's probably not fun to go up against these guys, and I mean, it's kind of pick your poison. You got to stay on track if you're on the opposite team, because if you get away, I mean, Terry's gonna have that crease. But they're doing, it's a obscure job. I mean, people don't talk to it enough, but I mean, they take a lot of pride with it, and it's a tough job, even if they're big, strong guys. I mean, they're doing it as good as anyone I've seen. So yeah, it's really, really good for our team to have these 3 guys.
Matthew, when it comes to the game on Saturday, we saw last week how important and how drastic takeaways can be on defense. Obviously, your pick 6. Saskatchewan actually has the fewest turnovers this year with 22. So what are there like tangible things you can do going into this week to, get Saskatchewan to force the ball over? Or is it like you said, where you just do the process and the results will come?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Trevor being who he is, he's not somebody that will give the ball away. He's so smart, and he's been doing it for a long time. So for me, and I've talked to the D-line, but the defense in general, it's all about effort. I feel like good things will happen when you run to the ball. I mean, either like a tip ball and it just falls into your hand, or a lucky fumble. If you run to the ball, you'll have a good chance of scooping it, and to do it willingly, where if we gang tackle and the second guy tries to strip the ball or punch it out, I feel like as a team, if everybody puts in the work, and I mean, we're all on the same page, and just going after the football, that's when good things will happen. So it's not about the scheme, it's about the willing to do the right thing. And I mean, no, at that point, if we get lucky, good, but I mean, we'll have to work for every turnover we can get. So yeah, it's really just to go out there, play hard, and that's when good things happen for sure.
All right, looking to keep that touchdown streak alive, Matthew. Thanks for the time here, and enjoy this weather. It's supposed to be warm in Regina, too.
That's great news, guys. Good job with the podcast. I mean, I've been listening to you weekly, and I mean, it's just a thrill to follow the BC Lions with you guys.
Checks in the mail, Matthew. Good job.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Mathieu Betts, talking about the importance of a key battle here in the turnover ratio.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week just how devastating the turnovers can be in flipping a game, right? And when you look at this Saskatchewan team, what makes them go, they're the takeaways, right? They have the most takeaways in the league with 41, and they have the fewest turnovers with 22. So if you can win that turnover battle, it's always big, but on Saturday, it's going to be even bigger.
Yep, and emphasize it again on offense. Red zone. Needs 7, not 3. 0-4 last week, 2 for 5 against the Tiger Cats 2 weeks ago, and just convert one more of those. You win it in regulation. So we shall see. Reminder, our Future Stars game as we wrap up the regular season, Saturday the 19th of October against the first place clinched Montreal Alouettes out east. Montreal playing Thanksgiving Monday, then coming here on the short week. We'll talk about the other games this week in just a minute. But 4 o'clock, Save on Foods Field at BC Place. We celebrate the future stars of our game, amateur athletes from across the province. Junior Uproar dancers will perform as well. Pre-game at Terry Fox, the backyard party, 1 o'clock. Spray tattoo artists, Plinko, football toss, face painting. That's where Nikki and Liam will be getting their faces painted before coming in to shoot the action
Sure.
on the sidelines. $5 Molson Coors products. Might have to have one a couple hours before kickoff. Just one before the game. Maybe that's it. 1 o'clock to 3:45. Did we mention kids tickets? $15, adults for $25. Upper Bowl is open, so expect of a crowd, hopefully over 30,000 or so. And hopefully it's a situation where win and we'll be back for the Western semifinal exactly 2 weeks after the fact. Saturday, November 2nd, 3:30. Hopefully it's here. Could be in Regina. Could be in Winnipeg. Let's hope not. Save our trip to Winnipeg for a possible third straight division final. But it's one game at a time as we go around week 19 already in the Canadian Football League. We've talked about the scenarios, some milestones here quickly. William Stanback is over 1,000 rushing yards for the third time in his great career. Justin McInnes inching toward 1,500 receiving yards, 246. He's the third highest Canadian single season total for the Lions. He passed Jason Claremont last week. TJ Lee closing in on Dante Marsh for second on the club's all-time tackles list. He needs 8. Has a ways to go before catching his buddy Solomon El-Mimian. Gary Peters, 13 tackles shy of 400. Got his second career sack in week 17. Did not get one last week despite his wishes.
Sorry, Gary.
Sean White, 20 points. 20 more points now. He will pass Terry Baker for 10th on the all-time scoring list. And 2 more point afters for 500 for his career. So
I hope he hits the PATs. I don't know. Maybe he can get 20 PATs in the next 2 weeks. That's how I hope he does it. But that means they're putting up 7s, like you said. But
yeah,
as reliable as always. A lot of TJ's is really cool too, right? 600 tackles approaching. That's a Solomon El-Mimian obviously has a franchise record. That's a little untouchable, but
well, get
cool.
3 field goals for White this week and 4 the next week. Why not?
I want PATs.
Sure.
That's touchdowns.
Yes. All right. Week 19 again starts Friday. Toronto in Winnipeg. The Bombers, one more win or one more loss by Saskatchewan are going to clinch first place in the West. Toronto, a lot at stake here. Remember, they have to finish with more points than the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They would do so with just one more win or a loss by Hamilton. Ticats are on a bye. So Chad Kelly and company going into hostile territory. Another sellout at Princess Auto Stadium. I think the Bombers have won 8 in a row, and they're steamrolling teams now. Looked like Hamilton didn't have much of a hope there Friday night But both teams with plenty to play for, and I think this will make for a really good one.
Yeah, and the Argos are catching fire at the right time, right? They obviously had that big win over here and start the month, and then they had a big win before their bye week against Montreal, shoot up there. So I think there's going to be a bunch of fireworks in this game on Friday. And these teams, there's a Grey Cup history. There was obviously the history last year where Chad Kelly did not even play in Winnipeg because they had already clinched first place. But now the stakes are high for both teams. Toronto's also 1 point back of Ottawa. And they play Ottawa next week. So I don't know. And I'm sure the message in that Argos locker room is no look ahead. We got to take advantage of what's in front of us right now. But some big football come up for the Argos. It's great to see down the stretch here in the CFL.
Yeah, I'm going to look forward to watching that in Regina somewhere on Friday night. And as we go to Saturday, Elks at Stamps. That'll be after us, I think, right? Or is it? No, it's before us.
Yeah, 12 o'clock kickoff.
So first time since 1945, since Calgary joined the Canadian Football League, that no Alberta teams will be in the playoffs, and it's fitting. They play each other a week after that officially happens. Is there going to be some kind of ceremony before this one to commemorate that?
Hang a banner? I don't know.
Trey Ford starting for Edmonton. I saw that today. That's probably the right call. And that's interesting how the Elks kind of respond, because guys are competing for jobs there, right? New ownership halfway through the year. Jarius Jackson, Geroy Simon, hopefully looking to stay there, but we shall see. And maybe they get a boost from Trey Ford. And Calgary, they're going to have a lot of questions come the offseason, as well as our victory over them combined with Saskatchewan winning eliminated the Stamps as well as the Elks on Saturday. So two teams that should still be hungry, right?
Yeah.
Playing for pride, all that stuff. But not quite sure how you handicap it at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like you said, Trey Ford's out there. The Elks were in a hell of a game last week with the Riders. I was obviously watching that.
They were, yeah.
That was a crazy game. So their receivers are winning jump balls over Sask's DBs. That was really impressive to me. And that's something I think the Lions receivers have to take away from this game this week. And Calgary signed PJ Walker. That's another interesting one.
That's right.
I saw they added him from a former NFL quarterback with Carolina, Cleveland, other teams in there, Atlanta, I think maybe, but UFL star. So keep an eye on that down the road.
Yeah, could be. He could have a future there. You never know. Thanksgiving Monday. Love the Thanksgiving Monday game. Montreal, another sellout crowd, I read too. Alouettes talked about it. They got this short week and their longest trip coming here, so you wonder how that might play into some of their lineup decisions for when they come here. Will we see Cody Fajardo? Will we see Walter Fletcher? Duquois? Who knows? But Montreal hosting Ottawa. You mentioned it. The Red Blacks they have their playoff spots sewn up last week as well, but they're in a battle just to hang on to second and hosting a game. So depending on what happens, I suppose if the Argos lose and the Red Blacks win, Ottawa would clinch second place, right? It's a 1 point separation between those two in the standings with a head-to-head meeting to come. So Montreal, to me, they've shown not much signs of slowing down. I know they lost a game in Toronto that came down to the wire after locking up first, I think, earlier that same week. So again, we'll just see how Jason Moss and company approach this with a couple of weeks to go.
It's a big one for the Red Blacks too. They're 2-5 on the road this year and 6-1-1 at home, right? And the way, like you said, it's looking or shaping up is that they're gonna have to go on the road no matter what. They're gonna have to go to Montreal if they want to go to the Grey Cup, but they might have to go on the road both weeks in the playoffs. And they haven't really proven an ability to win on the road this season. So I think internal motivation, that's what we got to look at. We got to take down Montreal. It is interesting though. Last year the Argos swept the Alouettes, and then obviously in the East Final, the Alouettes came
Different
in and
story.
steamrolled.
Yeah.
So the Alouettes have a chance here to sweep the Red Blacks, and history could repeat itself if the Red Blacks have to go to Montreal. We'll see how that all plays out, but I think that's a little interesting note about how the East is shaping up. I guess it's Hamilton's turn next year to surprise everybody and going, or I don't know.
Well,
it'd be Ottawa's turn.
We've talked about this. It's kind of funny how it's been the same story 2 years in a row. Argos, maybe a surprising Grey Cup win over Winnipeg. Then the next year they just continue and they go 16-2. Montreal, same thing, gets hot, Grey Cup upset of Winnipeg, and then they take that into the next year.
Yeah. So it's Ottawa's turn.
Yeah. Well,
if there's a pattern.
There's two more. Flip a coin. The Tiger Cats, maybe. They're due.
That would fit the bill of surprising, I guess. If
Yeah.
the Tiger Cats were to do it, but well, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the script.
Week 19, of course, the one we're most concerned about, Lions, Roughriders, 4 o'clock Pacific. Moj, Julio, CKNW, 3 o'clock pregame. Harpreet and Takdir on Sherry Punjab, AM 600. Their pregame show, 3:30. Saw Harp pander at Hops Northwest Pub earlier this week. Always good to see Harp stopping by and taking in a little on tap. Great interview, by the way, with Keon Hatcher. Just down to earth about his Achilles rehab, fatherhood. Subscribe to BC Lions on Tap wherever you get your podcasts next week. One of my old stomping grounds next week, Nikki. The 120 Pub in Surrey.
Ooh, okay.
Scott
I'm
Road.
intrigued here.
Some older generation folks, older than myself, would remember it as the Whaler Pub back in the day. I vaguely remember it as that, but the 120 Scott Road, 120 Public House. There you go.
Looks nice. Going
great
urban
spot.
in the burbs is their catchphrase. I like it.
Have to get a guy who lives close to the facility, perhaps. But stay tuned. BC Lions on Tap every Tuesdays on 980 CKNW, 10 o'clock p.m. And come by for the recording at 8. You could win yourself some tickets to the Lions and the Alouettes on October 19th. All right. The goal every week, just get it to go for it or punt, and we've made it. And Nick is still jacked up about something here. Why don't you lead this off?
Yeah, I stormed a field on Saturday.
I saw that.
That is a complete bucket list item. The game I was at was Michigan at Washington, college football at Husky Stadium on Saturday. National championship rematch, big game. And the Michigan's ranked 10th in the country, but the Huskies were actually the favorite. And the Huskies kind of had good control of the game throughout, took an early lead, and then it kind of hit me with about 5 minutes to go that this is like a potential storm the field situation. I was actually looking at my phone where Vanderbilt had done it against Alabama the other day, crazy college football day. But we got to do it. So I was out. Went out for the weekend trip. Hung out with Tyler Gammon for a bit. Ran into Farhan Lolji on the field afterwards. So, but that was really cool. We just pretty much were standing beside the band for 20 minutes. I looked over. We're on the field, and I look over to my right, and Will Rogers, the Huskies quarterback, is getting interviewed on NBC or beside us live. So that was really cool. But bucket list experience, checked it off. And my runner up here. Got to bring this up, right? We got to go Moj's Jambalaya. There's kind of like this jambalaya we alluded to. There's this like jambalaya kind of theme within this 2024 BC Lions team. But go on social media, BC Lions on Twitter, and look at Moj's buy-in to his jambalaya
Hokey
yesterday.
Thibodeau.
Moj's Cajun Corner or Kitchen is what he called it, and then Hokey Thibodeau. He dressed up and all that. That was something else. Gave me
had the white spot uniform on. Yeah,
sponsor. Yeah, there you go. But that was hilarious, eh?
That was great. And I'd had his jambalaya previously, so I knew what to expect. And yeah, very good. And yeah, I went to one Huskies game ever. It was way back in 2010. Jake Locker was Washington's quarterback, and they upset Oregon State in overtime, and I think it was a running on the field game. I was so sitting up high, so I didn't make it down. And Oregon State had Jaquiz Rogers, the running back. Remember him? Yep. So that it's a great setting there, as you saw, right on the lake, and there's boats.
The sailgating. Yeah, that was cool.
That's got to be the best setting in college football, like in terms of the backdrop.
Yeah, it's got to be up there. Hey,
got to be up there.
Actually, people were like kind of just like there's security there. It's a weird tradition that you're just allowed to do it. But hey, who might have say anything? Yeah, but it's just people were kind of like sneaking by the gate, almost like kind of squeezing by it. And then I was like, screw this, and I actually opened it like the gate because I'm not like everyone's going one by one here. I'm just let the herd get on the field. So.
Looked fun. Yeah,
that was something else.
I was offered a ticket, but had some family duties. But yeah, next time, make it down there for a game. Good stuff. Yeah, if you're going to go to one game in college at Washington this year, that's obviously the one. So, all right, a while back, walking by Coach Benny's office, and he's blaring the heavy metal. I said, Benny, what are you listening to? He's like, oh, this is the Turbo channel on Sirius XM, channel 41. So I'm hooked. Driving to On Tap last night, trying to get jacked up for the show. I turn it on, and POD, Metallica back-to-back, Limp Bizkit, Korn, these type of metal bands from the 90s that I like. That'll get you going. I've just been on a heavy metal kick lately while driving around. That's it.
That's awesome. I think if you come to one of our practices too during the specials periods, Benny rips that, right?
And the first couple of practice days this week, his special teams mix had Nickelback on it.
That's awesome.
And then it goes right into, I think it was Godsmack he had going on after that. So yeah, Benny, huge heavy metal guy.
No surprise, BC Lions are winning after that too.
Exactly. So the special teams, no, not a coincidence.
I think not, yeah.
No. All right, what are you punting?
Have you seen the Boomer Doom Costco guys? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have not.
Like
what are you going to have to fill me in on this?
So I'm punting. I've just never really found them funny. You've probably seen them before. It's kind of like this ongoing meme right now. It's a dad and his kid and this other kid named the Rizzler. So they played in a Knicks game yesterday. They played.
Okay.
They literally played like an actual Knicks game, New York Knicks. They were on the floor at Madison Square Garden. So they're big. Like it's a big deal on social media right now. Their thing is like Boomer Doom. So like you've probably seen the videos where they're like, we're Costco guys, and they have like a double chip chocolate cookie, and that's all they say. There's nothing. I just don't really find it funny. I kind of think it's like the Nickelback of memes right now, where people are kind of just like pretending to find it funny. It was wild that they literally played in a Knicks game yesterday. Yeah, you're pulling it up
I see.
right now.
That's him there.
It's like a
looks like me out there.
Inter-squad scrimmage. Yeah, they're kids. It's his kid, but I don't know. I've just never really found
that.
That's cool. The Knicks thing is cool, but their whole bit, I've just never really found it funny.
Just kind of gets old and tired, like a lot of trends.
All they just say is boom, and it's, I don't know, it's just, or doom if they don't like stuff, but I don't know, I'm punting
You're
them.
getting older and grumpier now. You're not.
I guess, yeah. I just don't find, I don't, like, no one's laughing at that, in my opinion. The Knicks thing was cool, but no one's laughing at their content. That's kind of my gist of things.
I like that. That's a good one to punt. I like that. All right. First game for the Vancouver Canucks later tonight. I guarantee you, Nikki, whoever scores the first goal, someone will go on X or whatever and say, oh, he's on pace for 82 goals this season.
I'll do it.
You do it, and I'll retweet it. How's that? I mean, I get it's all in good fun, but it's just...
I'll shoot your shot today. Who's scoring a goal for the Canucks?
Who's scoring a goal for the Canucks?
Who can we tweet this about today?
Let's go off the board. I would say...
I'm gonna go with one of my new Bruins.
Jake DeBrusk.
I'm going to go the other guy.
Danton Heinen. Good Langley boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Connor Garland's going to score.
Oh, yeah. He's always buzzing out there. I love this saying Connor Garland buzzes out there, because that's just, you look at him and that's the one word that always comes up, and it's... Quinn
Hughes might have like 4 assists or something. Calgary's not going to be a good team.
Yeah, the Canucks are going to win today. Let's hope.
Yes. Anyway, it's just too cliche for me. I don't know. And then when they win, when the Canucks win tonight, someone will say, oh, well, the parade's going to start on Robson Street, the Cup Parade. It's going to go, Anyway.
Hey, high hopes for the Canucks. So
we'll see. Not sure if they're going to match the 109 points, but you never know.
Got to make the postseason, right?
Got to make the post. Yeah. If they don't make the playoffs, I think that's considered a massive failure.
Yeah,
but
so there you go. That's exciting.
Good to have hockey back, though. We were watching the Bruins and Panthers, a bit of the Utah. You looked fun in Salt Lake, too.
Yeah, I want to get out to a Utah game. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
They're going to be good, too, I think.
They're going to be, they should be in the discussion. So, and they beat Chicago. So
he's probably not going to be good, but hey, baby steps.
Connor Bedard couldn't score. That's what I was focusing on.
It's funny seeing all the new, like Alec Martinez is on the Blackhawks now.
Yeah.
And, like just seeing all the new.
Pat Chiaretti signed a deal with the Leafs, right? Yeah. After attending camp.
Pat Maroon's on the Blackhawks.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Like it's just all, I love all the movement that you kind of forget about until you see them there.
Yeah, that is
Vincent
pretty
Desharnais on the Canucks tonight. That's going to be that's a good example of. Yeah. He's on the Canucks.
They need some size back.
Forbert.
They need some size. So Desharnais
Forbert is eats
should
pucks,
bring that.
Be a good season.
What about your buddy Kiefer Sherwood? Is he going to have a good year?
He's a little scrappy guy too. He'll mix it up. Yeah,
your buddy, like you know him pretty well. You guys are tight.
Don't know him at all. I root for him. He's a little scrappy guy. You guys didn't like him in the postseason when he was mixing it up for the Preds back.
No, he was just doing his job, right?
He chips in with some key goals too, so I think he's going to be a sneaky ad.
There you go. Canucks Nashville in the conference final. How about
Let's
that?
do it.
If Utah doesn't beat Nashville
we'll be
first.
in Kamloops, so that's the one issue.
Oh, yeah. Well, cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. First and now, be sure to subscribe, rate, leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Lions and Roughriders Saturday. We'll be back next week to recap Saskatchewan and recap the smoked old fashions. That's what I should have punted. Not really a fan of those.
Okay, well, punt them to me. I'll take them.
You can have 5
I'll
of
catch
mine.
it and return them to the house.
All 5 of mine, yes. And we'll be back next week on First and Now, brought to you by World Vision Canada, our national charity partner. More Lion sacks this week, again, means more money donated, $200 for every sack by Bo Lacumbo. Back next week on First and Now.